The government has just announced its budget with all of its spending and tax plans. So here's exactly what it means for students and young people. First up, they've announced that the living wage will be increasing by 6.7% from April. So for anyone aged 21 or over, their minimum wage will be increasing from £11.44 an hour to £12.21. And the minimum wage for 18 to 20-year-olds will be increasing by 16%, going up from £8.60 an hour to £10. This is obviously good news, and it's a step towards something that we've been calling for, which is to pay the same rate of minimum wage to people of all ages. Although we should say that the Living Wage Foundation says that the living wage does need to be a little bit higher at £12.60 an hour. Next up, the government has confirmed that it will be freezing tax thresholds until 2028, basically meaning that as average salaries increase, more people will start paying tax and more people will start paying tax at a higher rate. This is actually just a policy from the previous government, and it's also worth noting that as you don't pay income tax until you earn more than £12,570 a year, most students with a job still won't have to pay tax, and it will probably only affect you after you graduate. Moving on, and the cap on bus fares will be increasing from £2 to £3 in January, apart from in London and Manchester, where their buses are funded differently. This has been criticised, as it's often lower income or more vulnerable people who use buses the most, and it's obviously also a greener transport option. But others have pointed out that the £2 fare cap was set to expire at the end of the year, and letting it run up completely could have meant that fares returned to £5 or more per journey. On to alcohol, and the government says it will be increasing the tax on non-draft alcohols and reducing the tax on draft alcohols. So what that means is more tax on things like bottles and less tax on things like beer from the tap, which the government says will make a pint in the pub a whopping 1p cheaper. Again, bit of a mixed one, as some people think the cost of alcohol should be higher to discourage binge drinking, whereas other people think that's unfair, as lower earners tend to feel the impact more, and there are other ways to discourage excessive drinking that don't involve higher taxation. On the other side of the coin, the government is freezing fuel duty, which is basically a tax on petrol, diesel, and some forms of heating. This tax actually hasn't increased for well over 10 years, and while it does help to keep costs down if you drive, again, some people argue that we should be taxing cars more to then invest in and improve other greener forms of transport. But quickly, before we get to tuition fees and maintenance loans, make sure you hit that follow button so you never miss another video. So what did they announce on university funding? Well, there were a lot of rumours that the government would use this budget to announce an increase to tuition fees and maybe even reintroducing maintenance grants, but neither of them made the cut. That's not to say that they won't happen, and annoyingly, the tuition fee increase in particular seems almost guaranteed to happen at some point. So we will keep an eye out and we'll let you know as soon as anything changes. So that's everything you need to know about how the budget affects you. Feel free to drop a comment to let us know what you think and if you have any more questions.